I am going to talk to you about transforming the UK's construction sector. But I hope in the process of this, you'll see that the same sort of principles are applicable to many, many different regions and indeed many different businesses. I had a good 8 years working for Skanska, one of the biggest contractors in the world. So traveling to lots of different regions and finding that the UK was actually spectacularly good relative to a lot of other countries. You know, I think I can say the UK is generally more advanced than the USA in terms of its construction industry. And a lot of people were looking to us for innovation and to see the techniques that we were using in the UK. So that was a good basis from which to take up this opportunity to really have a go at a whole sector. Now, I don't probably need to say this to the audience I've got here, but there is a lot of reason to transform the construction sector. We know that there are all kinds of problems, and you can sum that up by saying that the built environment doesn't really meet the needs of society in terms of energy, in terms of value for money, in terms of living conditions and so forth. So we know that there are some really important challenges to face. But I'm also absolutely convinced, and hopefully I'll persuade any doubters in the audience today as I speak, that we can really overcome these problems. You know, there are solutions there. It's just a question of getting enough people, a critical mass of people on board with the kind of solutions that we need to apply. In 2017, spurred somewhat by the Brexit vote, which I'm sure everyone will have heard of, the UK decided that it needed a new industrial strategy. It needed to shape up industry generally, and there was sector deals for different parts of industry. It was a sort of jostling process to get different industries to get the attention of government and get the support. So I'm pleased to say that the construction sector got the support we needed from government. And the principles were really along the lines of these three headings here. Move to a massive increase in digital techniques, shift to a manufacturing approach to the construction sector, and address sustainability of the built environment. And that provides benefits for everybody. For the government in terms of what they're after, in terms of productivity and therefore living standards and wages, good jobs across the regions in the UK, impact at scale, so being able to really transform the whole sector, not just niches, and the issue of carbon reduction. From the point of view of businesses, improve profitability, addressing the fact that certainly in the UK we've got a deficit of the right kind of skills in construction. More sustainable business models that are not precarious. We've had some high-profile failures of construction businesses in the UK, Carillion being the most famous, and giving a boost to export potential from British firms into other regions. So we got this sector deal. We got a budget of 170 million of state funding to invest in innovation. At the time when we were negotiating this deal, we got 250 million of commitment to match fund from companies in the industry. And I'm very pleased to say that now that we can look back and see what's actually happened, they've more than delivered on that 250 million. Already, it's in excess of 300 million invested in these solutions by companies, and it's not going to stop. Now, this program that I've been running comes to an end in September of this year, so a 4-year program up to September this year. But the momentum is there. The investment plans are in place, and we've talked to companies about their investment plans through to 2027. And it's looking like it'll have added up to about £1 billion of investment in these techniques by the private sector by that time. These were the targets that we set out to achieve, and these were based on a lot of workshops and reviews, talking to all sorts of organisations within the UK construction industry. And these were considered really, really bold at the time. A third reduction in whole life costs of buildings, the doubling the speed of delivery, the lower emissions, the improvement in exports. But as I'll come back to towards the end of the talk, I think we have now proven that these, if anything, were conservative figures. Just a couple of slides on the principles, the sort of philosophy behind the transformation of construction. And one of the key models is sector integration. Now, I'm sure it's familiar to a lot of people that it is a fragmented industry. You've got different players in the organization. You've got the clients and the tier one contractors and the subcontractors and the engineers and the architects, quite honestly, often fighting against each other. We need to have models that integrate the objectives of the different players in the industry. Some people would have been here yesterday to hear about Project 13, which is really about enterprise-based procurement, where everybody gets aligned in terms of what they're trying to achieve with a project. And when I talk about integration, I'm talking about vertical integration, or as per Project 13, virtual vertical integration, or possibly proper vertical integration where you've got one company that does the whole lot. In the UK, probably the only high-profile example of that is Lang O'Rourke, who do the sort of subcontracting, the designing, the delivery, even funding of projects. So vertical integration is a key thing. Then we need horizontal integration. We need better sharing of information across the industry so that we've got the basis, all of us in the industry, to make better informed decisions. And once you've got that shared information, you've got the opportunity to apply really advanced digital techniques to that information and really start to capitalize on the advances in artificial intelligence. And then the other strand of horizontal integration would be logistics. I think, again, everybody would be familiar with the complexities of logistics in the construction sector, and just, again, the dearth of information about what is where, what the status of all the components are, and trying to bring some efficiencies to the logistics. And then finally, there is a third dimension that sometimes people talk about of integration, which is what they call longitudinal integration, integration over time. It's so helpful if you can have sustainable, solid relationships over many years in the industry. And again, that's something that you don't see nearly enough of in the construction sector. All this re-tendering, right, next project goes out to tender, goes to the organizations with the lowest price, whole new set of relationships, a whole new set of learning. So inefficient. So continuity and stability over time is a key thing. The other key model really is the product platform approach. So really looking in depth at how we apply the product platform approach to the construction sector. Works brilliantly in automotive, works brilliantly in aerospace, electronics, and so forth. This is the model for how we apply that to the construction sector. And we've looked in depth as part of the program at the applicability to the construction sector and found that probably 80% of certainly social infrastructure, your schools, hospitals, offices, prisons, and so forth, can be addressed using this approach with absolutely no disadvantages to the quality of the outputs and a great many advantages. So with the Transforming Construction program, we've essentially laid the foundations for change. Now, it is a huge industry. It has, in the UK, I think, technically about 250,000 construction organisations. Now, some of them are like 1- and 2-man bands, but there are a vast number of players. So what we needed to do was lay the foundations for change. So there is the right business environment and the right business logic to commit to change. So we've defined or provided tools to enable people to make more, and I'm talking clients really, to make more balanced decisions about what represents value from the assets that they're procuring. We've provided tools and guidance on applying this platform approach to construction assets. We've proven platform methods, and then my second point here really sort of expands the idea of platform approaches to digital platforms and standardized approaches to all sorts of situations. We've proven a wide range of platform methods, and we've shifted public procurement such that the government is now asking, demanding all these techniques that we've been investigating. So the supply chain have to comply and follow suit, and also it provides that confidence for businesses to do this. So in terms of the value approach, we've got the value toolkit. This model here is a diagram of it, helping clients make really informed and balanced decisions about the whole life costs and performance of the asset, the environmental performance of the asset, effect on society, local jobs and living conditions and so forth, and the human aspects, the knowledge and skills as well. So we don't tell people what to prioritize, but this is a model to help them think about the things that are really going to be valuable for the asset. And we also have the platform rulebook, which provides the guidance for particularly suppliers in the sector to be able to provide off-site manufactured kits of parts for buildings that enable buildings to be produced in using manufacturing approaches, predominantly in factories, very efficiently. So we have this tremendous portfolio of solutions, about 100 case studies that we've got of solutions involving several hundred organizations that we've invested in and been involved in this program, and that now represents a sort of treasure trove of information for businesses to learn from. We've addressed all parts of the construction life cycle, so another thing we were conscious of was the need to think about everything from design through the manufacture, through the site assembly, and through the efficient use of buildings, using intelligent systems to manage the energy and the activities in the buildings. And a key part of this has been active building technology. So incorporating within buildings the ability to capture, store, and control clean energy through photovoltaic panels, through heat pumps, and so forth. And again, the results there have been spectacular. There's a statistic here, 124% of improvement on Part L. Basically what that means is that if you achieve 100% improvement on Part L, you are eliminating all the energy, external energy needed to be provided to the building. 124%, that building has essentially become a power station that is exporting a little bit of energy. We've applied these techniques in the residential sector, working with the biggest developer, biggest house builder in the UK, Barratt Homes. L&Q are a social landlord, so a very big client of the house building sector. And in all these cases, we have found that it's eminently feasible to achieve these kind of targets that we set out to achieve. So, you know, it's been so important to prove that the techniques really, really work. Again, we've applied it to essentially buildings with medium-sized spans, so offices, which would also be applicable to hospitals and schools and so forth. And again, reductions in capital cost, considerable reductions in waste, considerable improvements in energy performance. And this is just the first iteration. I mean, when you think that you're going to get continuous improvement if you continue to apply these techniques over iterations of buildings. In terms of shifting public procurement, the great thing, we heard a little bit about this yesterday for those who were here, the construction playbook. So the Transforming Construction programme has enabled the construction playbook to exist, as it were. Enabled the government to confidently say, we now demand that these techniques are applied when we're procuring buildings in public. And the reason it's feasible is that we've really started to upskill and develop the supply capability of the construction sector. Specifically, we've worked with government on a series of new schools that have applied these techniques. Generation Zero, so zero carbon emission schools using these techniques, including generative design, whereby essentially you put in your parameters for the school and the artificial intelligence will design your school in a matter of minutes. You can, then you tweak it to make sure that it fits the specific location. But fundamentally, a huge efficiency is brought to the process. Transport infrastructure, same techniques applied to a range of transport assets. This footbridge is one of the outputs of the work that we've done in the transport sector. So again, very comprehensive across all building types. For those wanting to implement the same sort of techniques in other regions, I would flag up 4 particular lessons that we've learned. One is you've got to address change in the sector as a system. You've got to recognize that there is interconnection between all the stakeholders in the sector. Second one, in order to drive a really effective transformation program for a nation, you do need to have the right sort of team to push it forward. And I've pushed really hard to get a really capable team in place to mentor all these investments, to really properly support the change. That was something that wasn't standard in the sector and required a lot of attention. Third one, support scaling and commercialization of outputs. You've got to make it clear that there are business opportunities in these things. It's all very well the government saying you've got to do things, but if the business feels that it's pain that's going to be involved in doing these things, business is going to be reluctant. So we really made clear that there were commercial opportunities in doing these things. And the fourth one, and perhaps one that we didn't give as much attention as I would do if I went back and did it again, is really trying to drive skills in the sector. Having done all these things, having invested in these 100 or so case studies and all these things, my belief is that these are the actual feasible targets for the industry, which is absolutely mind-blowing, quite honestly, for particularly contractors in the sector. Quadrupling of productivity, I believe, is feasible in the sector. Energy saving, enormous energy savings from buildings. We can throw away or waste a lot less material. The question is, what should businesses do as a result of where we stand now? I think there are 4 key investment areas for businesses to look at. The manufacturing, and mostly off-site, but also taking a manufacturing approach to construction sites. So investing in manufacturing capability, digital information systems, offering, collecting and analysing data about what's happening throughout the construction process. I think there's huge opportunities there. Sustainability, techniques that decarbonise the built assets. Huge opportunities there, massive growth market. Again, it's really quite hard to get your head around just the scale of opportunities there. And online marketplaces. I think there needs to be ways for buyers and sellers of solutions to connect much more efficiently. I've developed a process, which I won't go through now, to help businesses through this process of change and realizing these opportunities. Finally, my program finishes in September this year. I'll be launching a business in September to propagate these techniques. So look out for the launch of Stacks in September of this year. That business will be there to support businesses and governments in this transformation program that has been so exciting for me to run for the British government.